In a galaxy where the mightiest species vied for supremacy, humans were poised to shatter all preconceptions. They were about to demonstrate that true strength wasn't about sheer size or brute force, but about the resilience forged in the crucible of a death world. Their impending feats of strength would leave alien onlookers awestruck, redefining the very meaning of unstoppable. Maddox, a burly human with shoulders as broad as a doorway, grinned, adjusting his weightlifting belt. His booming voice resonated through the packed arena, a tangible buzz of anticipation hanging in the air. Aliens of every imaginable shape and size, representing species known to endure the most extreme environments, thronged the massive amphitheater. They awaited the commencement of the first galactic strength trials. Beside Maddox stood Leah, cracking her knuckles. "Ready?" "I was born ready," she quipped, a confident smirk playing on her lips. Her eyes swept over the competition, a sea of towering alien forms. Though she appeared diminutive in comparison, her unwavering self-assurance drew curious glances. The Galactic Strength event, the most eagerly anticipated competition in the known universe, drew species from every galactic corner to test their physical prowess. This year, for the first time, humans had received an invitation. A small team of Earth's finest stood at the arena's edge, alongside competitors from worlds with names unpronounceable in human tongues. The aliens offered neither grand greetings nor condescending remarks. Instead, they observed the human contingent with a blend of curiosity and anticipation. No one knew what to expect. Some of the larger contenders, their musculature so dense as to resemble sculpted stone, offered curt nods of acknowledgement, like seasoned athletes preparing for a serious match. Karnak, a massive creature cloaked in emerald scales, loomed over the humans, his forearms rippling as he stretched. "This will be interesting," he rumbled, his voice a low thrum in the air. "I've heard tales of your planet." Maddox raised an eyebrow, his grin unwavering. "You've heard stories?" "We live it." Across the arena, screens flickered to life, displaying the lineup of challenges. First up, the Pillars of Endurance, a grueling trial designed to gauge stamina and pain tolerance. Each competitor was required to hoist massive stone pillars onto their shoulders and carry them across the arena, battling gravity and exhaustion every step of the way. Leah shot Maddox a sideways glance. "Think these aliens have ever tried carrying 6 grocery bags at once because they were too lazy to make a second trip?" Maddox chuckled. "I'm guessing not." He nodded towards Draven, an event organizer and respected elder of the shilling species. Draven's voice echoed through the arena, formally welcoming the competitors. "It is with great honor that we witness the strength of the galaxy's most formidable species," Draven began, his blue-skinned face solemn yet with a spark of excitement in his eyes. "Let the first challenge begin." The competitors moved to their assigned positions. Leah bounced on the balls of her feet, her gaze fixed on the enormous stone pillar before her. To any observer, it seemed utterly impossible for someone of her stature to even budge the massive stone, let alone lift it. But Leah wasn't just anyone. With a quick glance and a mild "watch this" to Maddox, she waited for the signal. The whistle shrieked, and the arena exploded into action. Aliens of all shapes and sizes grunted and strained, their muscles bulging as they attempted to wrestle their respective pillars off the ground. Karnak, with his impressive forearms, seemed to have a distinct advantage, hoisting his pillar high above his head and striding forward with powerful, ground-shaking steps. Other competitors moved with varying degrees of success, but all eyes were on the human contingent. Leah didn't just lift her pillar, she practically snatched it up in a single, fluid motion, her smaller frame moving with the practiced grace of someone who'd performed this feat countless times. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. Maddox, following close behind, hoisted his own pillar and began jogging along as if it were just another day at the local gym. "You kidding me?" a voice crackled over the arena's comms system, followed by incredulous laughter. "They're carrying those things like they're bags of groceries." Leah, ever the showman, winked at a nearby camera drone as she effortlessly passed an alien struggling to lift his pillar more than a few inches off the ground. "Need a hand with that," she quipped, earning cheers from the human spectators and a few amused chuckles from her fellow competitors. Karnak, who had initially made significant progress, paused and glanced sideways at Leah as she breezed past him, a flicker of something akin to amusement crossing his reptilian features. "Impressive," he rumbled. "We get that a lot," Leah replied with a grin, not even breaking a sweat. As the competitors neared the finish line, it was clear who the front-runners were. Maddox, though slightly behind Leah, was maintaining a strong pace, along with a handful of other alien athletes. But Leah was in a league of her own, miles ahead of the competition. She deposited her pillar on the designated spot with a satisfying thud and stretched her arms out as if she had just completed a light warm-up. Maddox arrived shortly after, breathing a bit heavier, but still sporting his signature grin. "I'd say that was a decent start," he commented. The arena erupted in thunderous applause, the initial silence of the alien spectators shattered by their newfound enthusiasm. They hadn't necessarily underestimated the humans, but they certainly hadn't anticipated such a display of raw power. Draven, observing from the sidelines, permitted himself a small, satisfied smile. The humans had not only held their own in the first trial, but had exceeded all expectations. And from the looks of it, they were just getting started. The next event, the Gravity Gauntlet, was not merely a test of strength, but of endurance under immense pressure. Competitors would be subjected to rapidly increasing gravitational forces within enclosed chambers, the objective being to remain standing for as long as possible. The competitors moved to their designated positions at the foot of the enormous stone pillars. Leah bounced on the balls of her feet, her eyes locked onto the massive stone structure that seemed impossibly large for someone of her stature to even budge. Yet, Leah's unwavering self-assurance radiated outwards, drawing curious glances from the alien competitors. With a quick, almost imperceptible glance and a mouthed "observe this" to Maddox, she waited for the starting signal. The shrill whistle pierced the air, and the arena instantly transformed into a scene of intense activity. Aliens of all sizes and shapes grunted and strained, their muscles contracting visibly as they wrestled with their assigned pillars, attempting to lift them from the ground. Karnak, possessing the advantage of 4 powerful arms, lifted his pillar high above his head with apparent ease and began striding forward, his powerful steps causing tremors in the arena floor. Others struggled with varying degrees of success, but the attention of the crowd remained fixated on the human contingent. Leah, with surprising speed and precision, didn't merely lift her pillar, she practically plucked it from the ground in a single, fluid movement, her compact frame moving with the practiced elegance of someone who had performed this task countless times before. A wave of astonishment swept through the audience, their initial silence broken by gasps of disbelief. Maddox, following close behind, effortlessly hoisted his own pillar and began jogging around the arena as if it were merely another day at his local gymnasium. "Are you jesting?" a voice crackled over the arena's communication system, followed by bursts of incredulous laughter. "They are carrying those monoliths as if they are mere sacks of groceries." Leah, ever the performer, winked at a nearby camera drone as she casually overtook an alien competitor who was struggling to lift his pillar more than a few inches. "Require assistance," she quipped, drawing cheers from the human spectators and a few chuckles of amusement from the other competitors. Karnak, who had initially made significant headway, paused to observe Leah's effortless progress, a flicker of what appeared to be amusement crossing his reptilian features. "Remarkable," he rumbled. "We hear that frequently," Leah replied with a grin, her breathing even and unlabored. As the competitors neared the finish line, it was evident who the leaders were. Maddox, though slightly behind Leah, maintained a strong pace, keeping up with a small group of alien athletes. Leah, however, was in a class of her own, far ahead of the competition. She placed her pillar onto the designated spot with a resounding thud and stretched her arms out as if she had just completed a light warm-up exercise. Maddox arrived shortly thereafter, breathing a bit more heavily but still wearing his characteristic grin. "I'd say that was a satisfactory start," he remarked. The arena erupted in thunderous applause, the initial apprehension of the alien spectators replaced by a newfound enthusiasm. They hadn't necessarily underestimated the humans, but they certainly hadn't foreseen such a display of raw physical capability. Draven, observing from the sidelines, allowed himself a small, almost imperceptible smile of satisfaction. The humans had not only performed admirably in the first trial but had surpassed all expectations. And judging by their demeanor, they were only just beginning. The next challenge, the gravity gauntlet, was not simply a test of strength, but a trial of endurance under immense pressure. Competitors would be subjected to rapidly intensifying gravitational forces within individual enclosed chambers, with the goal being to remain upright for as long as possible. Maddox and Leah approached their designated chambers, observing as the other competitors took their positions. Karnak rolled his shoulders, releasing tension as he entered his chamber. Beside him, Ulx, a creature with a metallic exoskeleton and slender limbs, stretched in anticipation. Ulx's species thrived in high-gravity environments, their dense, machine-like bodies seemingly built for this specific challenge. "Prepared for this one, Maddox?" Leah asked, her voice tinged with playful competitiveness. "I mean, surely you haven't been neglecting your leg exercises, have you?" Maddox laughed. "I practically invented leg day." Maddox and Leah approached their assigned chambers, observing the other competitors as they took their positions. Karnak, the massive emerald-scaled creature, rolled his shoulders, loosening up before entering his enclosure. Next to him, Ulx, a slender being with a metallic exoskeleton, stretched in preparation. Ulx's species were known to flourish in high-gravity environments, their dense, almost mechanical bodies seemingly designed for this particular trial. "Ready for this one, Maddox?" Leah asked, a playful competitiveness in her voice. "Tell me you haven't been neglecting your leg workouts." Maddox laughed. "Leg day is my specialty." The competitors were sealed within their respective chambers, and a low hum resonated through the arena as the gravity generators came online. The crowd leaned forward, eager to witness the spectacle. A large screen displayed each contestant inside their chamber, along with a real-time readout of the increasing gravitational force. Leah tapped her fingers lightly on her thighs, waiting for the challenge to commence. As the gravity began to intensify, her expression remained unchanged, almost as if she were waiting for the punchline to a joke. Around her, the alien competitors started to show signs of strain. Even Karnak, with his impressive physique, flexed his muscles, his brow furrowing in concentration as the gravity reached 5 times the standard galactic level. Ulx, on the other hand, appeared relatively relaxed, his metallic body gleaming under the pressure. Other competitors, however, were beginning to falter. Several species known more for their agility than their raw strength were already dropping out as the gravity continued to climb. Maddox, in contrast, adopted a remarkably casual stance. "You know what this reminds me of," he said, loud enough for his voice to be picked up by the arena microphones. "That time I tried to walk through one of those revolving doors too fast and got smacked in the face." Leah laughed, but her own expression remained steady as the gravity intensified. The spectators in the stands began to murmur amongst themselves. The humans weren't simply enduring, they were excelling. The gravity levels kept rising, but Leah appeared as though she could be waiting in line at a busy theme park. At 10 times normal gravity, the weaker species had long since tapped out. Karnak was now visibly sweating, his knees bending slightly as he struggled to remain upright. Ulx remained composed, although the strain was evident in the way his metallic frame vibrated under the immense force. Leah, however, looked bored. "Come on," she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. "This is getting embarrassing." The arena crowd, filled with alien spectators, burst into laughter. They weren't laughing at her, but rather in astonishment. The human competitors weren't just strong, they were making this look effortless. The other aliens, competitors and spectators alike, couldn't comprehend it. At 12 times standard galactic gravity, a competitor from the glass species, a gelatinous, translucent being with numerous limbs, collapsed onto the floor of its chamber with a resounding splat, signaling its withdrawal from the competition. This prompted a sympathetic groan from the audience. Leah, suppressing a yawn, quipped, "Is this apparatus malfunctioning? I feel as if I should be experiencing at least some shortness of breath." The crowd roared its approval. Even the competitors who remained standing had to acknowledge the impressive nature of the human's performance. Karnak, his breathing labored, offered a nod of respect through the window of his chamber. Ulx, though clearly straining, managed a grin, his metallic face creaking as it contorted into something resembling a smile. When the gravity reached 15 times normal, the remaining competitors started to drop out rapidly. Ulx finally tapped out, the creaking of his metallic joints escalating into a screech as he succumbed to the immense pressure. Karnak, his forearms trembling under the force, persevered for a few moments longer, but even he was ultimately unable to withstand the crushing force. Yet, Leah remained standing. The gravity continued to climb, reaching its apex at 20 times the galactic standard. The event organizers had designed this level to be unattainable, expecting no one to endure it. However, Leah stood there, arms crossed, one foot tapping impatiently on the floor of her chamber. Draven, observing from his position near the control panel, stared, seemingly forgetting to blink. The trial was over, except, apparently, for Leah. She tapped on the window of her chamber and mind-checking her watch. "Can we conclude this, or should I bring reading material for next time?" she asked, her voice amplified by the arena's microphones. The arena erupted in laughter. Aliens who had never encountered humans before, who had believed their own species to be the pinnacle of physical evolution, found themselves both astonished and amused. Even the typically stoic Karnak let out a gruff chuckle as the gravity returned to normal. Leah strolled out of her chamber, grinning. "That was enjoyable," she declared, wiping a non-existent bead of sweat from her brow. Maddox emerged from his pod a moment later, stretching and groaning theatrically, despite having fared almost as well as Leah. "Man, that was brutal," he joked, bending backward with exaggerated effort. "Next time, let's do it with one of those weighted blankets from Earth, you know, the ones that weigh like 20 pounds. That's basically what this felt like." Draven approached them, clearly struggling to find the right words. The remaining alien competitors were still catching their breath, shaking their heads in disbelief. "It appears humans have a unique relationship with gravity," he remarked, trying to maintain his composure. Leah shrugged, pretending to brush some dirt off her shoulder. It's nothing special. Earth's got its quirks." Maddox leaned in and added in a stage whisper, "Yeah, gravity's just one of the things we wrestle with. You ever tried parallel parking in downtown New York? That's a real test of strength." The crowd's laughter filled the arena once more, and this time, even the more reserved alien spectators couldn't contain their amusement. The humans hadn't just broken records, they had done so with such effortless ease and humor that it was impossible not to be entertained. Karnak, still rubbing his sore arms, leaned over to one of his fellow competitors, a furry, six-eyed alien named Vorai, whose species hailed from a high-gravity planet. "Have you ever witnessed anything comparable to that?" he inquired, his voice rumbling with incredulity. Vorai blinked all six of his eyes at once, his fur rippling in agitation. "Not in all my cycles," he admitted. They simply shrugged it off, as if they weren't even exerting themselves. Meanwhile, in the spectator stands, the discussions had taken a turn for the outlandish. Aliens of various species were formulating wild theories, each attempting to rationalize how the humans had not only endured but excelled in conditions that would have crushed nearly any other being. They must possess some form of biomechanical enhancement, Tyrone, a thin, wiry alien from the Orvac species, suggested. His people were renowned for their precision and technical expertise, and Tyrone was clearly struggling to comprehend what he had just witnessed. There's simply no way organic bodies can withstand that level of gravitational force without external aid. Next to him, Gorns, a heavy-set alien with tentacle-like appendages for legs, waved his limb dismissively. "Implants? Absolutely not. They must have some unusual chemical compound within their musculature, perhaps something akin to liquid metal." Tyrone rolled his eyes, or at least the glowing spots on his face that served as his eyes dimmed momentarily. "Liquid metal? Are you being serious? Why would anyone want metallic substances in their muscles? It makes no logical sense." "Then what's your explanation, then, oh wise one?" Gons retorted. "They lifted those pillars as if they were weightless, and don't even get me started on their performance in the gravity chambers. What, do you believe they are simply born that way?" Tyrone hesitated, momentarily speechless. Nearby, two other aliens had engaged in their own heated debate. Fricks, a short, squat alien with 4 arms, was waving all of them dramatically as he argued with Jint, a tall, insect-like creature whose exoskeleton shimmered in the arena's artificial light. They are clearly employing some form of energy manipulation, Fricks insisted, his voice sharp. Humans must have discovered a method to control gravitational fields around their bodies. That's how they were able to stand with such ease within the gauntlet. Jint clicked its mandibles in frustration. That's preposterous. If they possessed such advanced technology, they wouldn't be wasting it on sporting events. They would be ruling the galaxy. Fricks threw up all 4 of his hands in exasperation. Then what's your theory? Jint paused for a moment, considering. I believe they are simply designed for this. It's their planet. They originate from a death world, correct? Perhaps they have evolved to withstand extreme conditions. Fricks gave him a skeptical look. So you're suggesting they simply live like this regularly? Why not? Jint countered. I mean, have you heard about Earth? It's essentially a constant death trap, volcanoes, earthquakes, dangerous predators, extreme weather patterns, and apparently, they all participate in some sort of sport where they run at each other at full speed and tackle each other to the ground for amusement. They call it football. Frick's eyes widened. They intentionally collide with each other? On purpose? Jint nodded solemnly. On purpose. And they derive enjoyment from it. There was a long pause as Fricks processed this information. Okay, now that's insane. Back on the arena floor, Maddox and Leah could hear snippets of the wild speculation occurring in the stands, but they weren't paying much attention. They were too busy stretching for the next event. Leah leaned over and whispered to Maddox, I overheard one of those aliens say we have metal in our muscles. Can you believe it? Maddox snorted. Yeah, they're all trying to devise some outlandish explanation for why we're outperforming them. I heard another one suggest we have gravity control. Leah rolled her eyes. If I could manipulate gravity, I wouldn't be using it to lift rocks. I'd be at home, effortlessly floating on my couch, binge-watching television shows. Maddox chuckled, shaking his head. You've got to admire their thought processes. We're achieving all of this, and their first assumption is that humans must be cheating. Leah smirked. Well, we have an unfair advantage. Oh yeah? Maddox raised an eyebrow. And what's that? We grew up consuming processed food and surviving on caffeine, Leah replied, her voice dripping with mock seriousness. After that, nothing can break you. As the light-hearted exchange between competitors continued, Zylar, a pale-skinned alien from a race of scholars known as the ZYX, couldn't resist getting involved. He approached Maddox and Leah, his long, spindly fingers tapping together thoughtfully. If you don't mind my inquiry, Zylar began, his voice polite but filled with obvious curiosity, how exactly are your bodies capable of such feats? Our scientists have studied Earth, of course, but the physical limitations of your species were presumed to be considerably lower. Maddox exchanged a glance with Leah. Well, you know, Earth is full of surprises, he said, scratching his head in mock confusion. Maybe we've just got good genes. Leah smirked. Yeah, it's probably the corn syrup. Zylar blinked, clearly baffled. Corn syrup? It's a human dietary element, Leah explained, waving it off. Essentially, it's the fuel that empowers our muscles to perform extraordinary feats. Zylar looked as though he was about to ask further questions, but before he could, Draven's voice boomed over the loudspeakers, signaling the next event, the Gauntlet of Trials. As the arena lights dimmed and the echoes of the day's extraordinary feats faded, the competitors retreated to their respective quarters, leaving Maddox and Leah alone in the now quiet amphitheater. The weight of Draven's parting words hung in the air between them, a testament to the impact they had made. Leah exhaled slowly, leaning back against a bench. You know, she mused, I think we just shifted the galactic perspective on strength. Maddox, still savoring the last morsel of his strangely luminescent alien sandwich, nodded in agreement. Yeah, he mumbled through a mouthful of the otherworldly cuisine. And next year, we're coming back to show them we weren't just lucky. Leah grinned, her eyes gleaming with competitive fire. Let them try to take our title. We'll be waiting. As the last of the arena lights clicked off, plunging the vast space into darkness, the sounds of the galaxy's most formidable athletes dissipated into the night. One undeniable truth remained: the humans had made their presence known, and they were here to stay. They weren't simply powerful, they weren't merely resilient. They were Deathworlders, forged in the crucible of a planet that demanded strength, ingenuity, and a healthy dose of dark humor just to survive. And that, as it turned out, was a combination that the galaxy wasn't quite prepared for.